Okay, let's see here. If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them. And as it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said in an interview with China television in the Syrian capital. As long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert. Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks. If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, as it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said in an interview with Chinese television in the Syrian capital. As long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert. Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks, transcript of his translated remarks. Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, as it has never stopped war. Mr. Assad said in an interview with China television in the Syrian capital, as long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert. Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Right, very good. To continue exerting hegemony. Hegemony. Almost hegemony. 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 Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, as it has never stopped war. Mr. Assad said in an interview with China television in the Syrian capital, as long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert. Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Right, very good. According to a transcript of his translated remarks. If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them. As it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said in an interview with Chinese television in the Syrian capital. As long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert. Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks. Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, as it has never stopped war. Mr. Assad says in an interview with China television in the Syria capital, as long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert. Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Right, translated remarks. That was very good. You did a good job there. Especially with hegemony. Very good. Hegemony. Very good. That would be the in this whole thing. That would be for people learning. That would be the tricky word, hegemony. But we'll explain it in a moment. It's quite simple. Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, stop the war, Mr. Assad said in an interview with China television in the Syria capital, as long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, will all keep high alert. Ms. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Exactly. That's what I've been trying to say all day. Thank you, Mr. Singh. That's just exactly what I've been trying, oh, okay, all right. No need to continue in class. Go ahead. No problem. Right. That's just what I was trying to say. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Okay. Okay. Chinese in the English class. Ooh. Okay. Well, if you understood Mr. Singh, then you don't need me to repeat the thing on the board. Go ahead.
If the U.S. want to file accusations for war, it will find them as it has never started war. Mr. Assad said in an interview with Chinese television in the Syrian capital.
Right.
As long as the Assad intend to continue exerting hegemony over another country will be all keep high alert. Mr. Assad says, according to a transcript of his translated
remarks. Right. Interview with China television in the Syrian capital. As long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks. Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find the accused for war, it will find them as it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said in an interview with China television in the Syrian capital. As long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad says, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Right. Very good. If the U.S. wants to find excuses, they're looking to find excuses. I believe they're looking to find excuses for war. It will find them, as it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said. Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, as it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said in an interview with China television in the Syria capital. As long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Very good. Exactly. Exerting its hegemony over other countries. Exactly. Very good. Go ahead.
If the U.S. want to find excuses for war, it will find them as it has never stopped war. Mr. Assad said in an interview with China intervention in the Syrian capital, as long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert. The Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Right, very good. We will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks. Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, as it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said. In an interview with China television in the Syrian capital, as long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over other countries, we will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Right, very good. We will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks. Exerting its hegemony. Exerting its hegemony. 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 Go ahead.
If the U.S. wants to find excuses for war, it will find them, as it has never stopped war, Mr. Assad said in an interview with China television in the Syrian capital. As long as the U.S. intends to continue exerting its hegemony over their countries, we will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks.
Right, very good. Exerting its hegemony over other countries. We will all keep high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks. The U.S. wants to find reasons, make up reasons, excuses. I need an excuse to attack. Oh, he said he doesn't like you. Oh, okay, good. Now I'll attack. Looking for reasons, whether they're real or not. Any excuse will do. Any reason will do. I don't care what it is. If he says he doesn't like my shirt, that's a reason to attack. Any excuse will do for war. He will find them, or it will find them, as it has never stopped war. They continue to have war, and if they want one, they'll find a reason to have another one. Mr. Assad said in an interview where he was questioned back and forth, a questioning, he made himself available for questioning. You can ask me any question. I'll tell you exactly what I feel, what I believe to be the case, the situation. It's an interview. Finding out what Mr. Assad thinks about a certain topic. In this case, U.S. attempts to find excuses to attack. An interview. He will be interviewed at 3 o'clock this afternoon on China television. In the Syrian capital, Damascus. The road to Damascus. The very famous road to Damascus. The Syrian capital, notice it's I-A-N, in this case, Syrian capital. What is the capital of Syria? Damascus. Damascus is the Syrian capital. As long as the U.S. intends or means or wants to continue exerting, pressing, pushing for something, push, exerting its hegemony, its control. Hegemony, control. Pushing its control over other countries. As long as the U.S. exerts or presses forward its control over other countries, exerting its hegemony, pressing its control. Control over other countries. Control, in other words, it's domination. I control Canada, I control Mexico, I control this, I control that, I call the shots, I am in charge.
He would like to have more power than the other.
It's not saying so much that he wants to have more power, it is that he has more power. He's exerting its hegemony, pressing its control. In other words, Assad is saying it already has the power. It's just pushing for more and more, exerting its control over the other countries. We will keep on high alert. We will be ready. We will be alert and ready for anything. We're not going to sleep. We're going to stay awake all night and be ready on alert in case there is an attack. Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript of his translated remarks. Now, he was on China television. I'm sure he was not speaking Mandarin Chinese. He was probably speaking Arabic. Arabic.
Arabic language.
What?
Arabic language.
Languages.
Not language. Not language. Keep saying that. Keep saying that. Language. It is language, not language. Okay, so we will keep on high alert, Mr. Assad said, according to a transcript. In other words, when he was on television, let's say he was speaking Arabic on a Chinese station. So they had to translate. They had to translate for the people listening from Arabic to Mandarin, let's say. So they had probably somebody come in over top of them, and whatever he said, they would be speaking in Mandarin, so that the Chinese viewers would know what he's saying. But when they did that, they also made a written transcript. They wrote down what he said in Arabic. They wrote down a transcript of his translated remarks. Now, the remarks could have been translated into Chinese, to Cantonese, to English, and in this case, they were at some point translated into English, which was then written down and transcribed, written down, so that the reporter who didn't speak Arabic and who didn't speak Mandarin, but who spoke English and could read English, was able to read the transcript of the translated Arabic comments. They went from Arabic to Chinese to English, and the reporter was handed a transcript, the written statement of Mr. Assad. And so when he reported it, he said, yes, we will be on high alert according to the transcript of the translated remarks, because the reporter that wrote this did not speak Arabic, he did not speak Chinese, so he needed some kind of help in order to report in English what was said. So he picked up a copy, a transcript of Mr. Assad's translated remarks. Because he's telling you here, I did not hear him speak directly. Mr. Assad did not speak to me directly. I did not interview Mr. Assad. He was interviewed on Chinese television by a Chinese interviewer. He spoke in Arabic. The remarks were translated to Chinese. I could see what was going on, but I did not understand it. So I needed help. And I asked the Chinese operators of the television station to please provide me with an English transcript of Mr. Assad's remarks, which they did. So I'm telling you, I did not hear him speak that I understood him. But once I got his transcript, this is what the transcript said. So he's saying, if the translator was wrong, not my fault, because they gave me a transcript, and I'm just telling you what the transcript says. Not my fault if the translator was wrong. Any questions about that? A written transcript of the remarks that were translated from the Arabic to the Chinese and then to the English. So each time you translate it, maybe there's a little bit of a change or a mistake in the words. So the reporters say, hey, if there's anything wrong with the transcript, don't blame me, blame the translator who provided it. Okay, no problem. Any questions about that? Excuses? Interview? Damascus? The Syrian capital, the capital of Syria is Damascus. Damascus is the Syrian capital. Intends, exert, press forward, control, high alert, be ready. We're on high alert. According to the transcript, the written comments, written down on paper, scripted, of the remarks translated from Arabic to Chinese, ultimately to English. Any questions?
So may use Syria with apostrophe S and capital?
Yeah.
The same as Syrian capital.
Yeah. You can, Syria's capital, Syria's apostrophe S capital is Damascus. The capital of Syria is Damascus. What is the capital of Syria? Damascus. Damascus is the Syrian capital. The capital of Syria? Is Syria's capital? The capital of Syria. Yeah, you can use it. Just you can use it with an apostrophe S. Syria's weather. What's the weather? The Syria's weather is cloudy today. Syria's apostrophe S weather is cloudy today. Any other questions? Okay. Intends, hegemony, exerting, pressing, exerting pressure, pressure. Some people would say, I'm going to exercise in the gym. I'm going to exercise in the gym. Oh, have you been exercising? No, I haven't exercised in 1 year. This will be my first time exercising in the gym. Oh, your first time in a year? Be careful. Be careful. Don't overexert yourself. Exert.
So you are what? The last word you say what?
Are you going to exercise today? Yes, I am. I haven't exercised for 1 year. This will be my first time in the gym in 1 year. Whoa. Be careful. If it's your first time in a year, be careful that you do not overexert yourself. Okay, I will. Thank you.
Over and more exalt.
No.
Over exert.
Exhort? In other words, if you're going to the gym and you haven't been in the gym for a year, you've been sitting watching TV in Bangkok, Thailand for a year, then you decide to go back to Arizona and decide, I'm going back to the gym. Well, be careful. You can't go after sitting watching TV for 1 year or so. No, don't press it. Don't try too hard. Don't overexert yourself. In other words, you haven't worked out in 1 year. We don't want to have to carry you out of the gym on a stretcher. So don't overexert yourself. Don't push too hard. So that's what exert. You get the idea? If you go in there after I've done nothing for 1 year, if you start lifting weight, 45 minutes on the treadmill, that's what happens because you overexerted yourself. The next day you had to go to the doctor because your back hurt, your leg hurt, your neck hurt, and your shoulder, you can't move. I overexerted at the gym. I tried too hard after having been away for 1 year. Exert. The hegemony. Press the control. That's what they're talking about there. Don't try too hard. Don't overexert yourself. You might get hurt. Any questions? Exert.
Hegemony can use with if we exert to hegemony, we can use hegemony with other case.
Other what?
Others cases.
Yeah,
In the daily life or.
Well, daily life, no, usually it refers to more of an international issue, not daily life, so the word that used in daily life would be more like control. Hegemony is kind of a big control, more like countries controlling other countries. Hegemony. If you were talking about everyday life, you try to probably use the word control. To run the show, to be in charge. I'm the person in charge here. This is my company. I'm in charge. I'm controlling the operation. Hegemony has a bigger idea.
Bigger problem and use the formal.
Yeah, like in the statement they were talking about, the hegemony of certain countries controlling other countries. But if you were talking about everyday life in the city here, you'd probably use the word control. Oh, he controls all the operations of the company. Yeah, he has hegemony over certain things in a way, but he's in charge. He controls everything. He's the guy. He's the go-to guy. You have a question? He's the go-to guy. Control. Hegemony. You don't see it every day. It's more used in newspaper articles about the United Nations or the control of major powers, that type of thing. You know, it's not an everyday word. Okay. With or without the Syrian crisis, we will always be on alert against some Western countries' intention to override the UN Charter and international laws, he said. That's Assad, is the he. Russia and China have both vetoed previous Western efforts to impose UN penalties on Mr. Assad. With or without the Syrian crisis, we will always be on alert against some Western countries' intention to override the UN Charter and international laws. He said, Russia and China have both vetoed previous Western efforts to impose UN penalties on Mr. Assad. Impose UN penalties on Mr. Assad. Penalties. Almost like that. Penalties. With or without the Syrian crisis, we will always be on alert against some Western countries' intention to override the UN Charter and international laws, he said. New paragraph. Russia and China have both vetoed previous Western efforts to impose U.S. penalties on Mr. Assad. Go ahead.
Without the Syrian crisis, we will always be on alert against some Western countries' intention to override the UN Charter and international laws. He said, Russia and China have both vetoed previous Western efforts to impose UN penalties on Mr. Assad.
Right, very good. With or without the Syrian crisis. Crisis. Go ahead. Crisis.
With all the Syrian crisis, we will always be on alert against some Western countries' intention to override the UN Charter and international laws. He said, Russia and China have both vetoed previous Western effort to impose UN penalties on Mr. Assad.
Penalties, right, very good. With or without the Syrian crisis, we will always be on alert against some Western countries' intention to override the UN Charter and international laws, he said. Russia and China have both vetoed previous Western efforts to impose UN penalties on Mr. Assad.
With or without the serious crisis, we will always be on alert against some